joining us. Of course, you are one of the leading CEOs in Malaysia in the property sector, and we see you've moved into the experience sector and the experience economy. So we're going to dig into some of those ideas, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, Nordin, for having me. Pleasure meeting everybody. Hope everybody's staying safe, working from home.
Exactly, and burning up the bandwidth. I believe I see. We've had some fun over the last few days and the last few hours working out some of the bandwidth issues. But it's always good to speak with you, Joanne, and we're excited to have you on the show. Of course, KSK has grown from strength to strength over the last few years. Tell us a little bit about the company and a bit about yourself.
Okay. So our company is actually KSK Land. So KSK Land is now about 7 going on 8 years. We are a lifestyle and design property company. We started off as a developer, and our debut development is actually 8 Conley. So for those of you who don't know, 8 Conley, we're situated at the heart of KLCC. It's a mixed commercial development with branded residences and a hotel. So personally, I am the MD of KSK Land. So it started KSK Land now close to 8 years ago. I play 2 hats. So the other hat that I play is obviously the CEO of KSK Group. So apart from property development, we also do general insurance in Thailand and Indonesia. And out of which we have KSK Ventures as well. So I'm also co-founder for sort of 2 tech startups out of Thailand, which is also in KSK Ventures portfolio as well. Yeah.
Okay, nice. It keeps you busy and keeps you running around. Of course, you've got a huge team. I want to get to that later. But you recently launched a microsite. And this is something that I wanted to dig into today because it really goes to the heart of this idea of experience economy. What were you thinking? What was the team thinking? And how did you get to where you are today?
So, everybody who understands 8 Conley, maybe just from that, we're a branded commercial development, right? And really, whenever we sell a branded residence, it's really about an experience. And out of that, it's the services that we provide to the residences. And that's really part and parcel of why it is coined as branded residences. But the fundamental issue of that is, it's really hard to actually allow people to have an immersive experience, a first-hand experience, without having the physical space being alive yet. So, whenever we are always saying, hey, if you own a branded residence like U8, it's serviced by Kempinski, and Kempinski has all these services that are ready at your feet for you. That's very different from actually having to experience that yourself. So that was the problem statement for us. And thinking, how do we allow people to experience this, engage with it, and also emote with the experiences firsthand? Because if you can actually do that, then chances are it's going to be very memorable for you, and then you'll remember it. And that you connect with it. And that's actually, I think, one of the few fundamental things that are really coming into the market now is that, customers, people talk a lot about personalization, and that's always very important. So how do you get there? So that's how we started with this. And the problem, I threw the problem to the team and said, let's think out of the box a little bit. And I think now with, what technology can actually do for us, it's the reason why, we said, hey, how about let's take a spin to this? And this was all pre-COVID even, before we even thought that everybody would be staying at home, right? We just thought, let's give people one level up of an experience, an immersive experience. And now, fast forward, it's even more prevalent, I think, when everybody is actually staying at home, you can actually stay at home and still immerse yourself in a completely different world. Feel like you're in a first person viewpoint. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you, everyone. I can see a lot of people have started joining us. No Real City and Tan, thank you for joining us today. Agnes, of course, a regular on our show as well. One of the things that you mentioned also that you've started 2 tech startups. Has that been part of your ability to get this done? Because when I think of property companies, I'm not I'm not thinking, oh, they're going to come up with something amazing in that tech sector. I'm thinking, okay, they're going to come up with a beautiful building or something environmentally interesting or something like that. But how has that journey affected your journey as a CEO of a leading property developer?
I think in really the tech and startup world, we think of it as, using tech and data as an enabler. And that's really the fundamental of DNA of now what we bring into KSK Land. I think in what we are moving forward towards, definitely so. It's about exploring, what kind of technologies you can utilize, but always remembering that the customer comes first. So in the tech world, we would talk about, UI UX journeys, right? Everybody would talk about that. But then when you actually merge the two, it gets very interesting for property, because you then start thinking, okay, if there is a UI UX customer journey that everybody's obsessing about in the tech world, what about the physical world? And in the physical world, you would start to think of your customer journeys, and then you start thinking about how design actually affects your customer journey, and how much power you actually have when you design spaces, for people to actually experience something. You're setting sort of the frame for this journey to happen, and that's been now the DNA of how we have evolved as a property developer in KSK Land. So that's why today we don't even call ourselves a property developer anymore. We say, we're a lifestyle and design company, because the customer comes first. And that's the reason why we started using the term. I think Nordin, you and I were just talking about it.
Yeah, how do we pronounce that properly? Because I have I have difficulties with the English language sometimes.
Yeah. So it's Phygital. So PHYGITAL. So it's a combo of physical and digital. Because as the world starts obsessing over the use of technology, on your app, going online, and people still want to know, because we are humans, social animals. That's how we remember and experience. That's how things become very memorable for us, right? So at Conley, our debut development, our tagline was always "Your place, your story," and everything we do, even in the most extroverted space, whether it's the hotel or in the retail or the most private space in our residences, everything that we design, every journey that we design for the customers and the target audience that we're speaking to, we want to think about, okay, how do you allow them to create experiences and memories for themselves? How do they make it personalized enough for them to craft that journey for themselves? And that pushed us a little bit more. And then this concept of Phygital came into play, because what Phygital really means is that you are using technology as an enabler to bridge between the digital world and the physical world, right? And when you do the two, then you allow people to emote, right? Just like what I said earlier, a service. You can tell people that, hey, a butler service is provided to you, but it's very different from when you're experiencing it firsthand. And a butler that actually remembers your name, or a butler that you have a choice of making a decision what you want the butler to do. And in a typical world, you can have that completely physical. But with technology now, you can, as we say, right, you can actually stay at home and then have that come alive and immerse yourself in a different world. Yeah.
I think I popped in and out there for a second, but we've got a few questions, and I want to say hi to Grace Ann, and of course Sean, who is joining us. Anne from Australia, thank you for joining us. Aisha asked us a question. How does the property industry keep up with the evolutionary experience economy in terms of culture? Everything is changing. And then I want to have a look at I want to have a look at the video, which is a snapshot of your new microsite. Can you walk us through this video?
Yeah.
And kind of give us an understanding of what experience are people looking at and what experience are they going to look at when they get involved with Econme?
Yeah. So this video, whilst it's coming up, this video is actually a Kempinski campaign. Kempinski is Europe's oldest luxury hotelier, and it's the services that are coming to our branded residences at Econle called U8 Service by Kempinski. So there are all these like Kempinski services that are a la carte provided to you, and so we decided to start this campaign called the Art of Living, the Art of Living Kempinski campaign, and it's essentially a little bit like it's an interactive storytelling campaign. It has 3 chapters in it, and it's essentially like a mini movie series.
Okay.
Where it is in your point of view. So the moment you enter the microsite, you in chapter 1 you end up as the husband, and you're going through you're in
always
the first,
a good thing.
Always a good thing,
Okay,
right?
I think always a good thing to be the husband. Okay, here we go. I think we're going to get okay, what's going on here?
So this is where, in one of the chapters you walk in and you see the Kempinski lady in red, and she's talking to you and she's asking you, so what would you like to do tonight? So you are the husband, so it's a first person point of view, and the whole setting goes, you're trying to organize an anniversary surprise for your wife. So all throughout the journey, you get to select and you get to craft your own journey, what that would feel like. So the lady in red welcomes you. You get to feel a little bit of how the lady in red would treat you. And then you walk into your own apartment and you want to buy a gift for your wife, and the butler is there to actually help you out. So in this, it doesn't only allow you to have that craft your own journey portion, but it also allows you to kind of say, oh my God, maybe I'm one of those. I've once forgotten my wife's birthday, and now need to buy something.
Joanne, who told you? Who told you? Yeah, sorry. Yeah. No, and I think this is I think it's excellent for all on many levels. Of course, many property investors are men. Many of them would have forgotten their wife's birthday, anniversary, or both. I'm not saying anything, but you get the idea. But that immersive experience, it doesn't. You're not talking about the quote unquote the property itself. And it goes to this idea of story. It goes to this idea of narrative and building a life that of course, everyone wants a happy wife, and it's not easy to do, but you are part of that journey.
Yeah.
How well has that been seen? And of course, I think we've put in the link below for everyone who wants to know what it's like to be an excellent husband. In the link below, go and click on the link after the show and experience what it feels like to get it right. How did you do your testing of this experience? Did you which husbands did you put in a focus group? What did they get wrong? And tell us a bit about the development process.
So I think when we, as I said in KSK, we look at tech and data in a little bit more detail. I would like to think than other people in the property industry, because that's what we're used to as insurers and also in the tech world. So what happens is whenever we have our sales gallery where a lot of people walk in, when we look at our developments today in KSK, we like to say that we're not selling you a property as a commodity. We're selling you a lifestyle. In every single development that we do, we try to understand who are the customer sets that would come and live and play and work in the development. And that's the epitome of, placemaking and creating a community of like-minded individuals, because that's what humans like to do. We are social animals in that manner. And so whenever, we have people walking through our sales gallery, we obsess over the profiles of our customers. We don't look at our customers as just, people who can afford to own this property. We look at people who can aspire to own the property, people who would actually want to come and, spend some time in the hotel, people who would want to spend time in the retail. And even for our branded residences, micro segmenting the customer sets. And that's our first base, because that's knowledge to us. And then saying, through our journey, once a customer walks through our sales gallery, understanding what they really like, what's their hobby, what triggers them, what allows them to emote. Those are all data that, are more important to us than just per square foot price for property. What's the benchmark comparison with the property in the market, which everybody does. But I think it warrants today, when you talk about designing customer journeys and designing a community, it warrants people to think a little bit deeper about these micro segmenting of customers. And so that's our starting point, and then we go to our own journeys and our own stories, things that, little stories that we all remember, right? Like what I said, the husband forgetting to buy something for the wife, a guy meeting a girl in the apartment and starting a romantic relationship, which is, by the way, chapter 2. So it's
really okay. We got to get to that later. Sorry. Go ahead, Joanne. No, the other thing, one of the things I think I want to use the term curated this flagship project of yours. Of course, the brand Kempinski is a globally recognized, especially at that high end. But you've created something beyond high end. What are the other brands that you've got? How did you choose them? And what does that mean for someone who is looking for this next level experience?
Yeah. So with Conley, when we started Conley, we looked at around the surrounding, and there were a lot of luxury developments. But at that time when we launched, there's a niche segment called the branded residences segment. Today there are only about 400 schemes of branded residences and branded developments around the world. 120 of them are in Asia Pacific, out of which about 4 is in Malaysia. So branded developments and branded residences are a size above luxury developments. And it's like buying a collection for yourself, something that you can pass on from generation to generation. Like when you buy a Patek Philippe and you don't think that you're just doing it for yourself, your son and your daughter, because you hold it very close to your heart. And that's what value is really about. So in our formula of branded residences, as it evolves as a niche real estate segment, there are really 3 components of branded residences. And the first component is it has to be in a good location, a very prime location, and that's number 1, right? And that's where the value is kept. And the second one is really about the hospitality service. So in Conley, the hospitality service is really Kempinski, and what I like about Kempinski is really more than 120 years of, unwavering 5-star luxury service that they've provided through and through. And that's what we really, the consistency of the luxury service that's coming to you. And then really the third component that a lot of people tend to forget about for branded residences is design. So in design, and I would invite everybody to come to our sales gallery to view. So one is our sales gallery, where when you come in, you can see when we have the 2 towers of the branded residences, partner up with you. And UYOO, it's a design branded residences brand, where they are actually founded by Philip Stark and the chairman called John Hitchcock. and they've got an array of celebrity designers with them. And two of those are what we have in our branded residences in U8. A is actually designed by Steve Leong and you, and the second one is designed by Kelly Hoppen, and both of them are forces in interior design. So why are they important? Because design helps you to craft your spaces, so that you don't have to think about anything anymore. So that when you walk into your space, everything is thought out for you. Where you put your keys, where you put your shoes, all these little things. And last but not least is design in architecture. When you walk into the development, you want something that stands in time. And that's what Econ made. And everything that ties a mixed commercial development together is landscape architecture. And that's where, Trop Studios, which is an award-winning landscape design firm, comes into play, where he ties the interplay of the retail and the hotel, and also the design for the public spaces, which now is becoming more and more important to us, which for our branded residences is really on our level 26 and 44. So those two spaces become the town squares when the residents in U8 would like to sort of network with each other. That's where they come to connect with each other, and that's something that's actually very important to us as well. Yeah.
Excellent. We've got a bunch of questions. Sean, Zuleika, and thank you everyone, Siti as well. When we talk about, two things. I think one question is around data, another one is around community, and everything we like to talk about on a working lunch with Nordin is kind of that post-pandemic. Let's all get through this together. And for me, community is so important for that. What is the data telling you? Of course, everyone wants to know, this is, of course, one of the big ticket investment items in the country right now. What are you seeing in terms of COVID recovery? You guys are not just a Malaysian development, you're an Asia Pacific development, I would say. What are you seeing? What are you seeing there in terms of COVID recovery?
I think the first thing that we see across board is health is starting to become very important to people. It's not just physical health, so it's also mental health. So how do we actually embed, it's no longer a trend, actually wellness is actually a movement. So how do we actually embed wellness in the use of spaces and in properties, daylight daylight hours and things like that, which are actually very important to us. And also, I think everyone's talking about the idea of actually remote working and working from home and working from the office and having that flexibility to do both. So really, the understanding of how to personalize a space for people, not necessarily just larger spaces, but spaces that actually matter for people, and how to actually tweak between the two. So that's actually a very interesting cross-section that's actually coming to play. And the third one is really the concept of hyper-local. So a lot of things that are actually closer to you within your community that you want to see. That you have all your necessities that are actually very important to you. So no longer, I think for us, we no longer can kind of think, okay, we're just building, a development and treating it like a commodity and then just saying, okay, these are the facilities that we're actually providing to you and everybody has the same facilities. You've got to think about not just the hardware, but also the software, because both of these actually put in an experience for people, and that's actually very important. The third thing is...
sorry. Okay, go ahead. I was going to cut in there, but I know you've got it sorted. Go ahead.
And the third and the last thing I would like to say is actually really what we realized from this pandemic, or now I like to say it's probably an endemic moving forward, is the fact that we're still social animals. So we want an experience. But when we go out, we want an experience that counts. We want it to be memorable enough for us. So that human interaction is still extremely important, right? It's more valuable than we think. We've been tested for this almost like 1.5 years of how much we really want that human experience, because that human experience drives our mental health. So how do we actually give that? Is very important. And so that is also part and parcel of the inspiration of why we started to try out, this Kempinski campaign in a bigger way today. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we talk about, I want to go back to this idea of community. You need a place for a community to be.
Yeah.
So you need to talk about placemaking. Of course, for me, I love looking at skylines, which is a very architectural thing. Like, of course, you guys are going to like knock the skyline and make it look amazing. But the reality is you can only look at the skyline so much. How are you ensuring that people who become part of this kind of 8 Conley journey, 8 Conley story, are really given the experience of a placemaking reality that they can then live there, not just invest there?
Yeah. So for example, this is a journey that we hack, over time, bit by bit. Today, when you, for example, we don't like to call you a buyer of U8, we like to call you an owner. So the moment you purchase Conley, we start calling you an owner. You belong to this owner community, and as soon as you're the owner of U8, even before your physical space, currently your physical space is obviously being built. We already start to introduce you to, for example, the lady in red, and you come in. Whatever you need, and Kempinski, let's say if you can travel today and the borders are open, you can go to the lady in red and treat her like your personal concierge, and she knows you by name. So even before your property is actually handed to you, you start onboarding yourself into this community of people. And over time, the more owners we have in this community, today, a while back before we launched the campaign, we launched the 8 Conley mobile app, which is specifically for owners. For those of you who are interested, you can actually go download the app as well. And this app is specifically for the owners. And as we go through the development, as we continue the progress of the construction until VP and post, this is again like a Phygital experience where we put the owners into the app. We start telling them about, hey, you can look at your construction progress live today. It's live even for everybody to see, for public to see, because that's what concerns them the most. If I'm spending that amount of money, is it going to be on time for me? Can I see this more transparently? And that's what we've just given today as a killer feature in our phase 1. And then when the development is ready for you to VP, the lady in red will ping you on your app and say, hey, would you like to come and see your apartment now, your residence now? It's ready for you. Are you traveling from abroad? Would you like us to pick you up? And then post that is like, we are like your guardians of your property. So, okay, would you like to rent it out? Should we help you out? So I think this is part and parcel of placemaking. And then the moment they're on the app, we will start to introduce features like, you want to have a yoga session. Maybe you're a little bit shy of coming out and meeting the rest of your neighbors. So let's organize a yoga session. And that's where, things like property management, we have to think a little bit deeper. It's not just about providing a service when they call for it. It's also providing services and programs for people even before they call for it. So I think that's part and parcel of placemaking. So placemaking is really about the hardware and both the software. The hardware is in all the designs that I just spoke about. The software is the services that you want to provide, the programs that you want to have in your development to allow it to continue to come alive and stay alive.
I see that anticipation and the fact that you understand the lifestyle requirements of this group of people, I think is going to serve you well. And I think a personalized remote butler and personal assistant service. I think this is also where, and you mentioned earlier, health and wellness and every component of this. I think high net worth individuals are more likely to spend money on health and wellness than people realize, because they've worked so hard, they want to live long and they want to enjoy the fruits of their labor. So one of the things that and again, it comes back to COVID-19 resilience. KSK, on the corporate level, KSK has been in the news recently about talking about your agile work environment, your ability to roll with the punches during COVID-19. Tell us how that is. You're not just managing a Malaysian business; you've got a regional business. How has that affected you as an individual, taking care of, in a sense, the COVID-19 pandemic, Malaysia and abroad?
Yeah, so I think some of you might have heard of the term that everybody's talking about today, Agile, and the Agile culture that a lot of companies are actually trying to get to. So for us, we started Agile because of where we came from, some of the tech portfolios that we look at, and also in the startups that actually, I co-founded. And so we took it on wholeheartedly in KSK Land as well. So today we're fully agile. So the whole team works in squads, and we run on 2-week sprints and stuff like that. I think it's not just about the agile structure, but the way of working as part and parcel of our culture and our DNA allows us to, during this period, was a really good test in the pandemic, because it allows us to test the fluxes in the market. I think as every company goes today, we used to think of pre-COVID times, we used to think of changes of customer behaviors and trends and changes in the business, and the evolution of businesses in maybe like 2-3 year cycles. But today, it's changing every month. So how do we as a business actually, and how do we as businesses actually think of shifting gears all the time in the flux? And to be able to do that, when you're agile and in the way you work, when you're structured in a way that you're extremely close to the customer, you get to change things in the company really, really quickly. So on a weekly basis, monthly basis, yearly basis. So that's one. Because again, I think all of us should not undermine, the kind of fluxes that are coming the way. So which brings me to the second point, which is about customer preferences, behaviors that are shifting. So today, everybody is still trying to look into the crystal ball and say, what are your long-term customer behavioral shifts versus short-term trends, in customer behavior. So we are all still trying to figure out. I don't think that everybody has gotten the secret recipe. But from there, the question of now, when can you use tech and data as your enabler? So within the company, there has to be this kind of mindset that says, data is actually important to me, but the right set of data are important to me. Let's not talk about 10,000 millions of data, which is actually important, but you have to take it in progressions. And think of the tech and the data portion as an enabler to the business, to power the business, because it will enable you to come up with a lot of ideas that you would not be able to do it before. And that's the reason why concepts like Phygital concepts are actually coming more and more alive. Because people realize that this is now more prevalent and important than it is before. Which brings me to my third point and my last point, which is actually about talent in the company. Because I think sometimes, during pandemics and during crisis, a lot of people tend to look outside. A lot of companies tend to just look outside because you have to fight a lot of the battles. But one of the biggest battles that I think a lot of companies have to fight is really the internal battle. Because if our talents are also customers, they're human beings who have a lot of emotions. And so we have to think, if the outside world is changing so quickly, what does it mean for the kind of talent that we want? So the right kind of talent that we want, and for the existing talent that are within our company, we develop them. So how do we upskill them and right skill them, and allow their mindset to shift and to grow, really. It's actually something that within KSK in the last 1.5 years we have been looking at. So things like, are you really up for a challenge? Do you have the right grit in play? Are you the kind of person that will never give up? Because we all have to kind of not give up, right? And last but not least, I think at the very core of all these fundamentals is really a culture of innovation. So now more and more companies have to start to think, how do you build an innovation culture embedded in the DNA of your company, that everybody starts becoming innovative, everybody starts thinking of becoming to think out of box. I think that this is extremely important. And as an example, I think last year we started this thing called the Accelerator Challenge. So every couple of months, we actually do a whole company competition, team by team, what we like to call squads, and we compete over a problem that we want to solve. And you'll be surprised what kind of ideas will come out from people, right?
Nice. We've got a couple. I've got one last question, and it kind of sums up a couple of questions we've just got there. Leadership for young people. You talked about it in your own organization, and people working from home. What advice would you give young people out there today? You yourself, as a young leader, recognized as one as such as well. What advice would you give them working from home? What do you do to kind of get yourself up and about? And I mean, you're highly motivated. We know that. But what is some of the secret sauce that you can share with us without giving too much away?
I think number one, I always tell people that you have to be humble. Number one, because that's one of the principles that I actually prescribe to. In this current situation, when you're working from home and when so many things is actually happening to you, you have to be kind to yourself. And I think what that really means is that, the personal journey that I had to take was really to understand how do I be more self-aware about myself, my strengths and the areas that I really have to improve. And even for myself, it took a while for me to actually accept that I have weaknesses, and I have certain set of failures. And it's just recognizing that failure and saying, okay, then what do I do from here? How do I want to improve myself from these failures? Because we cannot pretend to know everything. So from there, this rude awakening of understanding that I don't know everything. There's a huge learning and development for me personally, and that's always important, and that really keeps me going. So everything I do, once that breaks into the mold, it's a little bit like, okay, if you're not afraid of failure, then you would actually start innovating and trying a lot of different things. And then you will have all your small wins. You have your failures, your wins, your big wins, your small wins. And that's where you also learn how to celebrate and be kind to yourself as well. So when you fail a little bit, people tend to beat themselves up quite a lot. So the recipe for me is that I don't beat myself up that much. For me, I just tell myself, I made a mistake. Oh, I recognize that, and let's move on. Let's learn from it, and let's do something different, and understand that, hey, there's a lot more in the world for us to learn. So that's the part of me that is that I prescribe to every day, to remind myself to be humble, to remind myself that, hey, I don't know everything. There's still a lot of things that I need to learn. And then the whole grit and excitement of wanting to do something new, wanting to it comes to play. Because I know a lot of young people tend to get very excited about a lot of things. They want to do a lot of things, and then every time when they hit something new, and sometimes when they hit roadblock, they tend to shy away from it. But I would say don't shy away from it. Because you will discover something about yourself and something new about yourself. Always very important. Yeah.
Thank you, Joanne. Permission to succeed and permission to fail, I think, go hand in hand. And really, today, I really want to thank you for your time. It's always insightful to get half an hour with you and get some time to learn what you're doing and what role and leadership that you're taking to take your company forward and take the industry forward. So with that, sorry, I want to say something. Go ahead.
No, I just say thank you. I think a lot of people have a lot of questions that we couldn't cover today, but thank you so much for the comments and the engagement.
Likewise, and we look forward to seeing you again, hopefully in the future on a working lunch with Nordin. And thank you everyone for joining us today. A reminder, I want to go and check out the second chapter where the guy gets the girl. It's a romance story as well as a husband getting it right. So check out the link below. and thank you again, Joanne, for joining us. And we look forward to hearing more about KSK's successes in the future.
Thank you, Nordin. Thank you for having me. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe.